Okay, got to do like a 5 minute review on this one, at least. I know there's several out there, but here's mine. Tonight's feature presentation, The Alpha Incident, 1978. This one was directed by the legendary Bill Rebane, still with us today at 87 years old. He's done some mostly low budget films such as Monster a Go Go, Capture a Bigfoot. How have I not seen that one? Giant Spider Invasion. I have seen that one. And Rana, a frog movie from the late 70s, I believe. So the Alpha Incident, 1978, is about a microorganism from Mars that is brought back to Earth by a space probe. Terrorizes passengers in a railroad office. We have a group, we have five main actors in this, and they all are kind of the stereotypical different types that are in this situation. So you have Stafford Morgan, and he is the cerebral, cool thinking. Let's play this out. Let's think logically. Let's do this step by step guy. He's the biochemist, the main biochemist here, and he's trying to just do things rationally. And he's the one who's communicating with the I guess the government and over what's going to happen next. Because when they find out what happened about them being infected, so he is that guy, and then he's kind of a leading man type, and he's got some pretty good chops. But you could tell he didn't have quite enough to pass the to like cut the mustard as far as like being a real lead Hollywood type. But he did show up in like Die Hard 2 and Another 48 Hours, so he managed to find his way to some sequel action films of the early 90s. So there was that, Stafford Morgan. And then John Goff plays Jack. He's the loudmouth guy, the impulsive type. And John Goff, I know there's a reason I like this movie a lot, because he was in a film that has had multiple entries in Horror Fest, and a film I like a lot, Drive-In Massacre, 1976. John Goff is one of the detectives who interrogates Mr. Ingleton, the creeper of the movie theater, and he is the guy. He's the guy who's kind of the good. No, he's kind of the bad cop at Ingleton's house. You see that, Ingleton? That's your rap sheet. So that's John Goff, and he's been in some other sleazy type of films. But so you have those two. Then you have Ralph Meeker, who was billed first for whatever reason. I don't really see him as being the lead guy. I kind of see Stafford Morgan as being the lead guy, but it's kind of close, I guess. But Ralph Meeker is just the guy who works at the train station. He's the older guy, the shy type, and kind of likable. And he goes back to 1955's Kiss Me Deadly. It's probably his most known thing. He actually looked like a real kind of a good, handsome guy back in the 50s, but he was in some other films. Like there was one in 53 he was a lead in, but Ralph Meeker. So there's him, and then there's there's Carol Irene Newell, who I didn't see what else she was in, but she's the damsel in distress, and she's the one who's it's implied that she is a virgin, but until Jack's character gets to her towards the end. But you also have, so she's that type of character. And then you have the last one is George Buck Flower, who is the bumbling idiot who causes the whole thing. He gets nosy, he's stupid, and he's the guy who kind of works on the train. He goes back into the cargo because he's so curious about what's being shipped, and it's the organism. And he like he breaks a bottle, cuts his finger, gets infected, and then that's why they're all, because since he's around all of them, they think they might be infected too. So that's why they have to stay in the railroad office. So George Buck Flower, who was also in Drive-In Massacre, and he was also in most recognizably in the film Back to the Future and Back to the Future 2 as the bum. I don't think he was in Back to the Future 3, but he's the guy that Marty McFly kind of knows. He just sleeps on the bench, and then that's about it. You have some other actors in here, maybe 4 or 5 others, like the general guy. That guy's good. I like him in the control room, like they're in communication with him, and he at the train station giving them directions on what's happening. He's talking with the lab on how the counter agent is search for a counter agent's coming along, and it's just the room is hilarious with the map on the table, the map behind him, the crappy little TV screen behind him, the little beeping. So there's a lot of that good cheesy low budget stuff. But the most notable other actor in this is John Alderman, who is one of the chemists who's working around the clock and knows about the organism. He's working to try to get with his friend who's got this bad beard. He's really ugly, and they're trying to get the counter agent to send to him. And they're talking about they have some kind of bog type conversations, like, we don't know what we're dealing with here, and boy, that's an understatement. Like, even the lines sound like it's the exact same. So there's John Alderman, who also was in Drive-In Massacre in 1976. He's like one of the moviegoers who's with a woman, real sleazy type. He was in some other films he was in were mostly like kind of like not adult films, but like soft core type of porn stuff. John Alderman. And so the people who are being quarantined, they feel fine, but if they fall asleep, their brains will explode. So that's the whole premise. So they're quarantined in the station, waiting for a counter agent to be made at warp speed. Okay, does it sound familiar, guys? Because it sounded very familiar to me the first time I ever watched this in April of 2020. Just happened to see it. Had no idea what the plot was. Okay, so it was like, wow, I'm like watching, this is like real life here. Even the woman at the end says, "We were never in this together." Yeah, sounds very familiar. So they're, the counter agent thing, and this is a film where the biggest criticisms of this movie are it's poorly paced. I don't really think it's that bad. Pacing is that bad. They say it's a little bit too chatty. The actors kind of talk too much. I think the dialogue's fine. I kind of enjoyed the dialogue, getting to know each of the characters and just the different ways that they're dealing with the situation, and the way they're and kind of the one-on-one with some of the characters is really good. I mean, for a low budget, it's not bad. And then another one of the criticisms was this is a Return of the Living Dead 1968 knockoff. Instead of being holed up in a house hiding from something that is on the outside, they are holed up in a railroad station together, protecting others from what is inside of them. So it's kind of a different premise, but I can understand the similarities, and there are some direct they borrow very heavily in some other scenes from Return of the Living Dead. I don't see really a huge issue with that. It shows the kind of the widespread effect and the influence of the movie Return of the Living Dead, so that's good. And I've never heard anyone, I mean, who knows, maybe it was Wes Craven who borrowed from this movie as far as the whole "you snooze, you lose" thing. So I never heard anyone bring that up as Wes Craven ripped off some of the premise of this movie when he did Nightmare on Elm Street. So, but I like this movie. It's you might be a little bored watching it, but I suggest you do give it a shot because it is a unique film. Kind of, I think it's kind of gives you a. It's one of those fits into the category of the good premise, not very well executed, and it holds your attention. So it's a good watch off of the big box set that I talked about, and the Nightmare Worlds, one of my favorite ones. This is the fifth time viewing it, and it still really holds my interest. And I like the setting of the railroad is really cool. And when it's still night, morning, yeah, morning. I like the kind of the outside of the railroad station, and there's a little lake there that's kind of cool with little weird shacks nearby, and the pine trees look really good. I don't know where this is shot, but it's pretty visually nice, and the acting is just fine. It's not great, of course, but and the ending is pretty. It's good. So whatever. It's the Alpha Incident, 1978, one of the better late 70s sci-fi films. Some people are saying it's not. It's more just straight drama. It is, I guess, but it's sci-fi. So, and the lab shots are really good. The nice late 70s laboratory stuff with the little machines in the background has a lot of charm to it. There's not really any gore in this film, but the one gore scene that you have is pretty good. So I recommend giving this a shot if you're into this kind of stuff. The Alpha Incident, 1978, is a good watch. So check it out. And that's tonight's feature presentation. And I'll see you for the next review. Later.